Hi, new year 13 here. You were year 12 until last week, and this is completely informal, a discussion about what happened last year and how you got through the course and what we can learn from it and what other students can learn from it. And none of this has been scripted or prepared, is that correct? Yes, correct. Okay, right, off we go.
Miss, what actually makes a student successful? What have you actually got to do to succeed?
Okay. I think you've got to be committed to the subject. I think if you've chosen to do literature and you don't really like reading, you've made the wrong choice. You shouldn't be doing it. You should be somebody who likes reading, wants to think things through, has an opinion about things. And students who don't do that and they sign on to the course, they can't think of anything else, I think they really struggle. Yeah, that's my thought.
What do you think causes students' problems?
Poor organisation. Sometimes it's lack of maturity, which might sound cruel, but it's true. Students who've been led by the hand all the way through GCSE, and then they suddenly find they've got to think by themselves, and then they feel they need tremendous amount of support. They're not prepared to come up with ideas of their own. They're not organised. They don't really want to do the homework, and they think they can get an A level just by coming to lessons. That's how they think it works, and they're wrong. So I think that's what causes most students' problems. I mean, what do you think? What has caused you people issues?
I think it's mainly motivation to actually get going, because to start off with the year, it's a bit, you're all eager, and then midway through the year you lose motivation. I'm not sure what you can do to help keep everyone going, but the stress of exams comes along, and the stress of all of the courses comes along, and English is really heavy workload, so...
You don't really realise how hard it is, do you? Really? You think you could miss some of the lessons and you'd be fine, but you can't. It's just it's harder.
I mean, we actually only have a set number of lessons to cover the text. So if you're missing a lesson, you've missed something really key, because it's never revisited. We don't have the time to do that. And I think sometimes students don't think that. They don't realise that every single lesson has been planned, and you can only fit it in this time frame. Well, what does everybody else think? What was hardest? Louise, what was hardest for you?
I think probably remember going back to your notes and then trying to think back to the lesson. I think the VLE really helps with that though, because you can kind of get the PowerPoints and then you can refer your notes to the PowerPoints. I thought it was quite hard keeping familiar with the text as well and remembering different parts of it, because you could be looking at a question and not really know how to answer it, but then when you go back through the text you notice different points of it that you could refer to a question.
So is that about note-taking skill? Did you have to develop new note-taking skills to help you?
Yeah, and just working outside of the lesson as well, and referring notes to any PowerPoints that are used in the lesson.
And was that really new for you from GCSE?
Yeah, I think GCSE was a lot I don't know, I don't think I did a lot of work outside of lessons, when I got home and stuff like that. But I think you have to kind of decide on your own, what will benefit you to learn better.
Any other thoughts? Anybody else?
I think maybe the light touch text is something that a lot of people actually struggle with, because you do your heavy touch and you expect your other two texts that you're going to do on the light touch to be very similar, and they're not. And it's knowing, because you need to know them in a depth to be able to answer an essay question, but you need to know it on your own back, if you know what I mean. You need to get that knowledge yourself, because they give you the basis of it, but they never give you any detail on what you need to know. I think that's a really difficult part of studying the novels that you do.
So you've got to actually stretch yourself. There's only so much can be given in the time.
Yeah.
You're stretching yourself. Anybody else felt they've overcome anything this year? That they have moved on? They have moved on in their writing or understanding?
I know what not to do. That's not to get behind, because once you're behind in it, then you struggle to get back, and then you're not learning as much as you could, because you're thinking about what you should be doing in the past, if you get me.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone with that. Sophie, what did you think?
I think I've overcome working at such a fast pace, because every lesson is something new, and there's never just a slow pace to the course, which is good, but I think that really gives you a kick to get your work done.
Are you naturally organised, or did you find you had to get organised?
I can be naturally organised, but I think with coursework I was a bit unorganised. So it makes you realise as well how much effort you need to put into your work.
So if we went round and found out what the hardest thing was for everybody, I wonder if they'd be the same. Let's come up with one word. I want you to think of something that you found the hardest. That's the first question. So I'm going to start with Katie. For you, what was
Organisation.
getting organised?
Commitment.
Being
To the
committed, motivated to homework.
Deadlines, so similar to homework.
Yeah, meeting them.
The coursework, like word limit, like getting right to the point with you, that was really hard.
Yeah.
I'd agree with word limit.
Vocabulary, new vocabulary is difficult.
And deadlines, definitely.
Just being familiar with the texts, it found that a bit hard, like especially with the light touch.
Okay. And so if I was to say to you one positive thing, these are the difficulties that new students at Year 12 are going to be facing. What positive things could you say you have now learnt when you look back on the Year 12 AS year and you're now at the start of Year 13? Where are you now where you weren't at the beginning of the course? What have you learned? Let's go back this way.
I think I just got much more focus. Like, you know how hard it is now, and you know how much more effort you need to put into it. And yeah, you just realise that these are A-levels. They're not like they mean so much more.
Yeah, I agree with Louise. I think you've got to be more focused, more organised as well, definitely.
I've actually learnt to enjoy the novels more. You actually look into them now, and I used to pick up a book and that was quite boring, but now you understand what the author's actually trying to say to you. It makes the novels much more enjoyable.
I think it develops your maturity as a person, because these are A levels, so you become more focused and committed.
I think it changes the way you look at things, because you'll read a book in the class and then you just think, that's it, it's just on the surface, but then it's so much more interesting when you realise the inner meanings in it, and then when you go off and read other books, you realise, and it just makes it a lot more interesting.
I've started using a lot more resources, like the VLE is really good for GCSE, for AS levels, doing all your homework and things like that. It's brilliant.
I'd probably say I've developed my skills, so I'd say I'm a lot better at analysing a text now than I would be before.
I've learnt about the organisation. Although I struggled with it at the start of the year, I've learnt to be more organised and to get my deadlines in, and how much easier it is and how much more capable you are of focusing on other things and other subjects and other parts of the course, rather than having to go back on deadlines and having to catch up with work.
So by the time you all ended up in your exam, which only happened a couple of weeks ago, did you feel that you had been prepared?
Yeah.
So knew what you needed to do. Did some of you feel that wish you'd done more?
I felt I wish I'd done a lot more. I missed quite a few of the lessons towards the end. Like I said before, I lost motivation quite easily. And I set myself targets, thinking I'll be alright, I get myself ready for the exam, I've got all the information I need. And I sat in the exam and I could see a lot more other people were finding it easier to write, whereas I was struggling. So it's those last few lessons that you never think are important at GCSE because you watch a video or something ridiculous. Those are the most important lessons for A-level. It's the last lessons, rounding it all up, making sure you've got everything you need.
Oh, that was very honest of you there, Anthony. Well done, and all we can do is fingers crossed and hope that you come up with the goods on the day. So thank you for filming us, Joe.
Thank you.
Josh.
Josh.